Hello, Geek History Lesson students. If you do not know, my new book, Super Soldiers, is going to hit stores on June 18th. It's available for pre-order right now on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, all that kind of stuff. And I say this several times on this show, but if you enjoy Geek History Lesson, I know for a fact that you will enjoy this book because it is looking at the intersection between war and pop culture to better understand military superheroes. I'm very proud of this book. I let a lot of people read this early, including Ashley.
Hey.
Ashley, what do you think about my book, Super Soldiers?
I think Super Soldiers is super good. I've spoken a lot about it on the podcast, but I think it is truly one of the best books I've read this year.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I mean it.
Anthony Swafford, former U.S. Marine and the author of Jarhead, I let him read a copy of Super Soldiers early, and he said it is a love story to soldiers, to comic book heroes, and to his country. It's a fun read. So if you know anything about the book market, pre-orders really matter. So I'd really appreciate it if you'd pre-order Super Soldiers before June 18th because it would help bump the book up in the Amazon algorithm. And that is where, if you are truly wanting to read this book, guys, pre-order is where it's at. So I'm very proud of this book. It has a quote from Dan Aykroyd on the cover. I don't know what demonic god I made a deal with to get that, but it's super cool that a Ghostbuster read my book. So Super Soldiers, it's a salute to the comic book heroes and villains who fought for their country. It releases June 18th. It's available for pre-order everywhere you can order books right now, and I hope you enjoy it. Now to the show.
Mark Grayson is just like most everyone else his age. He's a senior at a normal American high school because your Geek History Lesson on Invincible Volume 1 is now in session. Hello and welcome to Geek History Lesson. I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And I'm Jason Yellow and Blue Inman. Welcome to Your Mind University, the place where we take one person, construct, team, comic book series, superhero, alien, robot, ocean, geography, map, cat, and break them down in less than an hour. But we're not doing any of that today. So why did I say that many things? I don't know, Ashley.
Because you were casting your gaze about our room and listening things that were in here.
No, it's probably because, fair warning, listeners, I am super tired right now. And we are recording this pretty late for me right now. So if Jason Inman's a little loopy during this episode of Geek History Lesson, I apologize. It's because I'm super tired.
Yeah, but this is our book club episode. This is book club number 4. Of 12 for this year. And we are going to be talking about Invincible Volume 1 Family Matters, which I'm super, super thrilled about. We have TAs for this episode.
How is that possible?
Well, we did ask people way back when we first started talking about when we were doing book reviews in the early bygone days, like when we did that awful Ant-Man series that I hated.
Oh, and people recommended this one?
Yes, people have recommended books.
I didn't realize that.
These two people also recommended that we do a full Invincible lesson, but they specifically requested that we talk through the book. So a shout out to our TAs, Eric the Blue, and I'm going to butcher your name. I apologize in advance. Artista Omer Elmalia. Beautiful name. I'm sorry. But thank you so much for requesting Invincible. And these are old requests. So, hey, look, we finally did it. You're welcome.
Oh, Eric the Blue, I see you through the forest.
Eric and Artista.
With your forest powers. And Artista the Brown, I know of your ways. I see your sorcery from afar. And I will not be put down by your magical powers. That's all I got from them.
That was good.
Yeah. All right, cool. So, we read a book. We're going to talk about it. And you're going to get a very short and abbreviated version of the 10-cent origin. If it goes without saying at this point, spoilers for Invincible Volume 1. That's how these book clubs work.
And let's be honest, Jason and I have both read significantly past this, so there's likely to be spoilers for
I will try
significant
to keep it,
chunks of the Invincible series.
I will try to keep it to just this volume.
Yes.
I've read the entire series.
I have not, but I'm close.
I've read the entire series. Fun fact, Ashley, do you know why it's called Family Matters?
Because Family Members is a TV show?
Yes. Robert Kirkman, if you go through the softcover trades, he stops doing this later on, but I think for like the first 100 issues, every trade of Invincible is named after a sitcom from the 90s or 80s.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you can go buy them and you can laugh. I've always laughed at that because it's funny to see those titles on the side of the spines. But let's go into the 10-cent origin. This is where Ashley Victoria Robinson is going to tell you very briefly who are the peoples that made Invincible Volume 1.
Yeah, so Invincible Volume 1 Family Matters is the first volume in the prolific Invincible series, which was launched as part of an Image initiative to have an original comic book line, original superhero line, rather. This is, I think, the only one that has survived into our current and modern era. Like I said, published by Image Comics, written by the venerable Robert Kirkman with art by Cory Walker. And this volume collects issues number 1 through 4 and some of the pitch material in the back. And the description is as follows. Mark Grayson is just like most everyone else his age. He's a senior at a normal American high school. He has a crappy part-time job after school and on weekends. He likes girls quite a bit, ... but doesn't quite understand them. Ha, ha, ha. He enjoys hanging out with his friends and sleeping late on Saturdays, ... At least until the good cartoons come on. The only difference between Mark and everyone else is that his father is the most powerful superhero on the planet, and as of late, he seems to be inheriting his father's superpowers. Spoilers! Which sounds okay at first, but how do you follow in your father's footsteps when you know you will never live up to his standards? Boy, previews must have allowed you a much longer description than they do now.
Did you pull this from Amazon?
I did pull this from Amazon.
Amazon always has longer descriptions. I don't think this is a diamond description.
I actually think the first chunk is a diamond description. It goes on from here and goes this issue, et cetera, et cetera. I think this is 2 previews descriptions smooshed together.
Actually, I have to put a pause on this podcast right now because we forgot to shout out the colorist, Bill Crabtree. And also,
a legendary colorist.
Fun fact, I did not know this until I just looked at the book right now because I have the book open in front of me right now. Mm-hmm. This whole volume was lettered by Robert Kirkman.
I had no idea.
The lettering. And
that's so funny because I was looking through this and
it's okay.
There is a lot of extra there's a lot of word balloons that could have been smaller for the amount of text that was in them. So that's interesting. This was probably a cost-saving measure. Kirkman likely funded this himself. Although as a non-professional letter, not bad.
It's not terrible. I will say that the only thing that bothers me is the tail of the balloon to the mouth. It's very wee.
Yes.
It's very tiny.
I do have in my notes, though, I love the way the sound effects are lettered, and it becomes kind of a style for Invincible.
Although there's a sound effect that's going to come later on that's just doom, and I think it makes no damn sense. I'll point it out when we get there.
Well, Kirkman, at least in Invincible, because I've only read Invincible and then his Exorcism book as well, Outcast. He really likes to have meta sound effects from time to time. Like there are joke sound effects throughout this issue as well.
I see. All right, let's get into it.
Yes.
Oh, real quick, though, we have to announce that our GHL intern, Brago, the cat, is here. Brago, I know you were very interested in Invincible because of the colors. So what did you think of Volume 1? I think we should all strive to be as succinct as GHL intern Brago someday.
To be as erudite as he is.
Man, I can't. His insight is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, page 1, issue 1 of Invincible is, of course, the classic Robert Kirkman method, which is the storytelling method that Brian K. Vaughan later stole from him. Start with the cliffhanger splash page, end with the cliffhanger splash page, and he does it with every issue.
That's a Chuck Dixon trick as well.
But no, Chuck Dixon doesn't do the cliffhanger one.
No, but he begins and ends with splash pages.
No. He doesn't do the cliffhanger one. I'm telling you. He doesn't. Robert Kirkman does it in every single issue. Every single issue he writes. Chuck Dixon does not. He skips some around. Mm-hmm. But Chuck Dixon opens always with a splash page. You are correct about that. But this is like the classic Robert Kirkman. In fact, I've always heard that this is legendary. This is the reason why in the mid-2000s, every single Image comic opens with a splash page and closes with a splash page. But I think the opening splash page of this one is interesting. You know, you really ruined my afternoon. And then we go back. Now,
can we talk about this splash page a little bit?
Well, we can talk about it, and I want to ask you, because we're going to jump ahead a little bit, because, you know, we go through 3 pages here, and then it goes to 4 months ago. Ashley, what do you think about, before we go into depth on the splash page, that this does not pay off until issue 4, or is it 4 issues in this? 5 issues in this, I'm sorry.
4.
This doesn't pay off till issue 4. What do you think about that?
Bad move. Should have paid off at the end of issue 1.
I kind of agree.
It reads great in trade.
Yes.
Now it's funny that we're only talking about volume 1 because when people want to read Invincible, I always encourage them to read volume 1 and volume 2 because volume 2 is a big twist that sets up kind of the status quo for the rest of the series.
When Mark turns into a bear, it's amazing.
You joke about that, but that wouldn't be out of line for the Invincible world.
Nope.
So it's interesting that we're only talking about this first volume. So it reads great in trade. And Invincible reads quite quickly, like most Kirkman books. He's not super. He's actually wordier here than he gets later on.
Yep.
And this is an origin, so I can excuse that, and that's fine. But I think it's a mistake that it doesn't pay off in the first issue.
A little strange, right?
It is strange. The intro to this collection is written by Kurt Busiek.
Oh, Kurt Busiek.
Someone we greatly admire here on the pod.
I mean, I've emailed with him before.
But we've not had him on the pod, so he's not a friend of the pod.
That's true. But I have emailed with him before, and I've met him before, and he's a very nice gentleman. He's probably my favorite comic book writer of all time.
And it's funny, in his intro, he criticizes the first cover. And I'll agree with that. The first cover's not great. Like, it's a great image, but to me, like, if I didn't know what Invincible was and I didn't know it was a popular series, I would not have picked it up based on this cover. I think this splash page is gorgeous.
What do you want to? You said you want to talk about the splash page.
I do.
So what do you want to point out about it?
So Cory Walker does the art on this. And then Ryan Ottley becomes the Invincible artist. And
Cory Walker draws the first, 10 maybe?
Something like that. Yeah.
Sure.
And then he gets mad and
We're
leaves.
not going to look it up.
Doesn't matter. Having read so much more of Ryan Ottley, I think Ryan Ottley is a better artist. And I think Ryan Ottley is a better Invincible artist. But I think this splash page is gorgeous. And my favorite thing about this splash page is the lines. How the lines get thicker the closer they are to you. I think that's a really, really interesting way to force the perspective. Also, how few shadows there are in this page. Like, this looks like color flats almost.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of interesting. And then when we go into the flashback that you mentioned with Mark and his mom, and Mark is watching TV.
Right in the toilet.
He is wearing, that's friggin' funny, and he's reading a comic book. But when he sits down to watch TV with her, they figure out where, I always want to say Uberman, but it's Omni-Man. And they figure out where his dad is. He's wearing the Invincible, what will become the Invincible colors. And I think that's just a great, subtle design
Let's talk about this right now. I know it's getting a little bit ahead, and we're getting stuck in the weeds at the very beginning of this comic book. Invincible's costume. I think it's great.
I love it.
His yellow and blue costume. Now, he'll later get a blue and black costume.
I like the yellow and blue better.
I like both of them. I think
yeah, sure.
I think I like the blue and black slightly better because the yellow looks a little weird, but like I think this is a great costume design, and I know it's also a fun fact, secretly the Image logo.
It is, yes. I really love the yellow because also he's called Mark Grayson because of Dick Grayson.
Of course.
And I love the fact that this is like dealing with the journey of a legacy character. And for me, Robin is the ultimate legacy character. Yellow is a classic Robin color, so I like him having the eye logo being in yellow as well. They made 2 action figures of this costume, one bloodied, one unbloodied, and we have them on the wall in the Geek History Lesson studio.
Yes, we do.
We have Adam Eve ones as well.
Okay, so we skip ahead a little bit. Mark goes to the Burger Mart. He works at the fast food. And there's this great page.
I love this.
I think it's one of the best pages in the entirety of Invincible, where he throws the trash into the dumpster and it flies into orbit, and he's like, it's about time.
Yeah.
Now, fun fact, listeners, that trash bag comes back in like issue 8 or 9. It
comes back in the second volume.
Because it hits somebody in Europe, I believe. I think it hits a hobo in Europe. He's like, ow, where did that come from?
There's also a little later on in this volume, we see Mark go flying. And then we also meet Mark's redheaded friend, whose name I don't remember. And he'll take his friend flying in volume 2, which is like one of the funniest jokes as well.
It's William.
William, there you go.
Yeah, it takes William flying.
His buddy.
Okay, so, we get some scenes where Mark tries to fly by himself, and then we see like, there's
jumps off the roof.
There's some classic supervillains, like this guy that looks like he's encased in concrete, and Mark shows up in this really kind of crappy dungaree goggles costume.
He looks like Grifter.
He looks like Grifter, and he also like Jay Garrick. I kind of like that costume. I kind of weirdly like that costume. It's weird. And then
I don't think it ever comes back. Like, I don't think another character picks it up or anything like that.
And his dad shows up and says, "What in God's name are you wearing? You ain't a bit early to be doing this. You've only had your powers for what, a week?"
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of funny. And then Dad takes him to the super-powered tailor. Now, this is not really an original idea.
No, Black Lightning.
To Robert Kirkman. The first time I remember seeing it is, Black Lightning, of course, and then J. Michael Straczynski has Spider-Man go to a famous tailor or whatever. Now, the funny thing about it is that Mark gets this weird yellow and orange suit with all these discs, and that is apparently the original costume design for Invincible, because in the back of the book, they said that they were going to call him Bulletproof. And fun fact, that costume comes back later, and they give it to a character that they name Bulletproof.
Yeah, Invincible's a better name. The costume becomes a better costume. That's one of the things that you could also learn if you read the supplementary materials that are available in the back. This tailor, because Omni-Man is not going to be a positive influence in Mark's life forever. I can't remember what his citizen name is.
Who?
Omni-Man. What's his Earth name? What's his government name?
Oh, Lord.
Something Grayson.
Mr. Grayson.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
He's a mildly famous author. But Omni-Man isn't going to be a positive force in Mark's life forever. And this Taylor character, and then Robot to a lesser extent, kind of take those roles in Mark's life for a bit.
Yes.
So Mark goes around, he does his superhero thing, and the teen team catches up with him pretty soon as well.
That's skipping ahead quite a bit. So the first issue, the end of it basically is just...
I want to talk about Adam Eve.
I know. But so he gets into a fight in college, in high school, just like Spider-Man. And what do we think about the scene? Before we can get to the teen team, but I want to talk about, what do you think about the principal? It's always a weird thing in superhero comics where people get their name. Mm-hmm. And Invincible is not a common name. It's kind of a simple name. And actually, I think Robot makes fun of it later. He's like, that's kind of on the nose.
Yeah.
The principal says, "You're not invincible," and it's a great panel. It's one of Cory Walker's best panels where Mark smiles. What do you think about that? That's how he gets his superhero name.
I don't mind it. I've heard a lot of stories about... I listened to a podcast called The Tony Soto Show, and it's called that because the host was scolded at work, and someone said, this isn't The Tony Soto Show. I've heard that for a couple different naming conventions before, so it doesn't bother me. I think for a superhero, that would be something you would agonize over a little more, but I like that it pushes against the trope. I also like this sequence because where I think Cory Walker really excels is at expression, or almost at a character's refusal to express something. There's several sequences with Mark's mom where she's like, "That's nice, honey, pork chops. That's nice, honey, pass the salad. That's nice, honey."
Well, because most of this issue is his dad zipping out.
Yeah. And those are some of Cory Walker's best panels as well. He draws the heck out of Mark's mom.
I think the last panel of this issue, and I would love to own this original art, is the page where he's lifting the cards, the final page of issue 1, and they go, "Drop it, freak, will blow you away." And he goes, "I wouldn't try that. I'm invincible." And that's the last page of the book.
I bet that piece of art is expensive.
All right, so when we get to issue 2, we get the giant explanation of the Viltrumite Empire, how they all have mustaches, which is a gag that they carry on for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
In fact, there is a fun little piece where you'll eventually in Invincible get to see Future Mark, and he has a mustache as well.
Yes, he does. It doesn't look good.
I just love the gag that every Viltrumite has a mustache.
Yeah.
I think that's very funny. What do you think about this origin sequence? Where he's like, "They're peaceful people, and I came to Earth because I loved it so much." But then there's this brilliant page where he goes "Mark, you're going to have superpowers. Do you understand?" And it's 4 panels, and it's little boy Mark saying, "I'm going to be able to fly?"
If you look at the supplementary material in the back, they have that same sequence, except it's teenage Mark, and he says, "Am I going to be able to fly?" Mm-hmm. I think this is the most boring sequence in Invincible, and I think it was a drag to read. In this volume of Invincible.
I was like, you're crazy.
I don't, and perhaps it's because I know where it's going. I don't care for the Viltrumites. I'm not really interested in them.
I love the Viltrumites.
I don't. I hate them. I hate every time.
They're the Kryptonians.
I hate every time we have to deal with them. I hate every time someone goes there or we interact with them.
Well, I want to have this conversation right now.
Yeah.
Okay, this is, and I know this was pitched this way. This book was pitched as Son of Superman.
Yeah, I mean,
and this
obviously.
This is Son of Superman.
Yeah.
and that is basically supposed to be like the Kryptonians.
Yeah. That's why I think it's boring.
Well, how do you think this? Well, I mean, he doesn't come from a dying planet. Blah 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 blah. How do you think about this? Like, do they do a good job? Is this a good Superman homage, or is this too close to Superman?
It's interesting.
What do you feel?
I don't think of Omni-Man as being really anything like Superman. And again, that's potentially because I know where it's going outside of the sort of standard Ubermensch powers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough for me because the Viltrumites are really Kryptonians desanitized in a lot of, like, without the drama and without the flair. Like, Kryptonians, they're kind of like the Vulcans, right? Like, they're a fairly logic-based or you know,
science-based.
Yeah, and then, but they have these dumb costumes. And they have, like, the Jewel Mountains and stuff like that. I mean, I guess it stacks up okay as a Superman homage.
I think it's actually one of the better Superman homages that have ever been made.
Really?
I really do. Because I think it takes just enough from Superman that you're like, oh, that's Superman, but it's different. It's different enough. And I think that's the key is when when you're too close to it. And I say this as a person who has written a Superman homage. So, you know, although mine is very close, but that's the whole point of the story. But let's get to your favorite thing. First, we got to shout out one of the greatest Invincible characters of all time, the Mauler twins, although we only get to see one of them. They
just keep coming back.
They're in the series for a very long time. So the Teen Team shows up. Ashley, talk about Teen Team.
Awful name.
Is that's their name? Teen Team?
The Teen Team.
Teen Team.
They are, for all intents and purposes, the
TEENTEAMM Team.
Yes.
Doesn't work.
No. They're also not as fun. They're, for all intents and purposes, they're the Teen Titans. They also happen to operate out of Mark's high school, so that's convenient. They are made.
Well, one of them does.
They are. Doesn't Rex also go to their high school?
I don't think so. I thought Rex was older. Am I incorrect about that? I thought Rex was older.
I don't know. He's not in their class at any rate.
Got it.
But one of Mark's classmates is in there. Adam Eve. She's amazing. She can control atoms. There's an amazing scene.
Don't forget Duplicate.
I'm not done yet. It's Triplicate, first of all.
No, it's Duplicate.
Oh, I thought it was Triplicate.
No, Triplicate is the Legion of Superheroes girl.
No, Triplicate girl is the Legion of Superheroes.
Duplicate, which I think is a clever name.
It's cute, but you often see three of her, so that's why. So there's Duplicate, there's Adam Eve, but Adam Eve is in Mark's class, some of his classes. They go to the same school. They're led by Robot, who's a robot. Shock. And then Rexplode, who's a douchebag, and dating Adam Eve for quite a while, actually, longer than I anticipated. Adam Eve has a really amazing scene later on where she effectively like builds her own reality in the middle of Africa.
Well, that's like 40 issues down the road.
I know, but it's like one of my all-time favorite sequences. I think it's so gorgeous. Also, it's a very emotionally packed scene.
I will say this: one of the problems with this book, and again,
they draw Adam Eve like she's a 35-year-old porn star. And they're like 17.
No, not that at all. Is that the first scene where they meet up in high school, Adam Eve and Mark Grayson?
Yeah.
The art, I'm sorry, Corey Walker, is atrocious.
I will echo that.
Mark has dots for eyes when he had full eyes for most of the other thing. And then Adam's Eve's hair is so weird and her face changes in every panel, so she doesn't look like herself. It feels like this is the point in the book where I'm like,
this is rushed.
Are you feeling rushed here, Corey Walker? We're only in issue 2, my friend.
Yeah, I do like the way he has a very sharp, almost anime-like line design for her bangs that I really like on the right side of her head. But it's unfortunate. Also, as a female, you can tell he's not great at drawing women, which is like this is an issue that I have with a lot of like teenage superheroes. Like, I think they're either 17 or 18 here.
Yes.
And she is drawn like a full-bodied woman, which she is not. And that's my only issue with Adam Eve as a superhero, is that she's wearing a bathing suit.
Yes.
And her butt is visibly out in many scenes. And it's
a Starfire problem from Teen Titans.
It is. And it's not that that's not what would happen with that garment. It's not that a 17-year-old wouldn't wear that garment, but it is the choice by adult men to sexualize teenage women that does bother me, even though Eve does go on. She's one of my favorite.
Can I put you on the spot
characters.
here, Ashley?
Absolutely.
Because I want to hear your woman's perspective on this.
Sure.
There are several superheroines that basically wear that bikini bottom bathing suit for their costumes.
Yes.
Would you ever consider that? Because to me, it seems insane.
No.
As a superhero.
No. you have major arteries and veins in your legs that if you get punctured, you will die.
Yeah.
Now, there are some characters who I think would use their sexuality and like their person. I believe Black Canary would wear that.
Okay.
So like for certain characters, where it really bothers me again is where like she is an underage, she's a child.
But I don't even like it on Wonder Woman. Like when they used to, Wonder Woman had that costume for a long time.
Wonder Woman should have the battle skirt.
Yeah.
Because with the leg bracers.
Or pants.
Or pants.
I like her in pants.
But I'll give you the battle skirt because that is a Greco-Roman.
Sure.
That's an actual design. But most of the time, no. Like with Huntress, it's ridiculous.
I was just curious because some characters it does work for, and some characters it look just ridiculous.
But the one I can't forgive is Starfire wearing that like stripper strappy thing. Nothing against strippers.
Sure, I just think in reality, in real life, like no woman would ever wear that.
Not unless you were not unless you were bulletproof, and Eve is not.
So the team they beat the crap out of the Mauler twins,
and they very quickly are like, "Hey, you're not a complete screw up. Want to hang out?"
Well, they say you seem to be a pretty useful guy, which I think is such a weird line of dialogue. But
also not true. Mark is not especially useful. I mean, he's strong.
Well, he is because he's strong. Because at this point, he's just like Superman. He doesn't know how to fight.
Well, but I mean, he's done nothing to prove that like he's worth a damn, except he's strong.
He's super strong. He's the strongest one on their team.
Yes.
By night and day. But here's the thing, and I love that this is where we're going Invincible. He says, I'll think about it. Is always this easy? See, again, this is very much the young Superman problem. He's so strong that he's just relying on his powers. And then, a kid blows up in a mall. Ha!
Yeah, this is interesting because
what a weird storyline.
This is actually, I think this storyline is very sloppily handled, I will say.
The kids with the vests blowing up.
Yes. I don't think it's a bad idea. And this is early Kirkman. This is early Kirkman having high success. This is the kind of thing that he does. A lot of people, like we kind of teased earlier, like to herald the end of Volume 2 as where the big tone shift is and where Invincible settles. This storyline is where it actually, you can see how brutal this series gets and how mean at times this series gets.
It will get very bloody and very mean.
The fight on the moon comes to mind. Yeah, you will see Mark's eye like pop out of its socket. And this, like, kids with suicide vests controlled by their teacher, I think is the first hint of where this is going.
Now, the interesting thing is that so we get a team up between dad and son, and it's a great page with the two of them, and dad keeps zipping away.
Where they're flying together.
And dad reveals, and this is something that happens in Invincible going forward too, dad reveals that there's been he's been invincible for 3 months now. So at this point, there are so many adventures we have never seen.
Yeah.
Like if Mark's going on,
there's some significant time jumps here, but at least they do address it. If they're not, they don't put it in captions, but we do address it.
And so then we get to one of my favorite, and this will become an ongoing storyline in Invincible, where there are all these like green guys. There's an alien invasion, and Omni-Man asks for Mark's help, and then the green guys start aging.
Yep.
But then at the last minute, they grab Omni-Man, and Omni-Man gets really angry, beats the crap out of him, and Mark finally sees his dad's powers and maybe his dad's anger for the very first time. But at the last second, of course, Omni-Man is grabbed away. Although we got to talk about this really quick moment where his dad sees one of the kids in the bomb vest and is like, I don't got time, and leaves him in the dust.
Can we talk about that? But also because when they're fighting the green aliens earlier, Omni-Man makes no effort to communicate with these guys, to figure out what's happening. And again, like we know what happens with this character. His actions and his unwillingness to spend any intellectual energy in either of these situations and just goes to punching the problem is a really good hint at like where Omni-Man is going to go to.
What you just brought up so ties into a scene in the final issue of Invincible that I so want to talk with you right now, but I do not want to spoil it for our listeners. But what you just talked about is directly impacted in the final issue of Invincible, like because of something that Mark does. And Oh man, I really want to talk about. Well, I'll talk about it off mic. It'll be fine.
Maybe the next time we do Invincible, we'll do the last volume of Invincible.
So Dad leaving Mark in the dust is a theme that will happen throughout this series.
Over
Yep.
and over.
Because it's the idea that
it's a big deal when Mark leaves him in the dust for the first time.
Exactly.
Huge deal.
Well, it becomes this thing where Mark learns like, oh, so my superpowers are just like muscles. If I work them out, I can get faster. I can get stronger.
Yeah, and they don't know, and they discuss it here, if Mark's ever going to be as powerful as his dad, because Mark is only half Viltrumite.
Half human, yeah. So he's like, I don't know. The interesting thing about this is that his dad. So this is I actually really like this moment where his dad like sees the kid. Is like, you got to tell me who did this to you, please, and the kid doesn't know, and the dad just tosses him away real quick before he blows up, saving everybody in the thing. But still, it's a moment, and then the aliens show up and they steal his dad away. But his mom is unfazed by his dad being absconded to another dimension.
Well, and when he comes back and he's like, I've been in a prison camp for 3 months, she goes, that's nice, honey.
No, I think what they do in the next issue is he walks through a door and he goes, my beard. Or he's like, I gotta
need
shave.
to shave, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we get to the final issue, and the final issue is basically all about, there's all these bombs, and Mom's sad that Dad's there.
They wrap this up pretty quickly.
They do wrap it up pretty quickly, and let's talk about this. What do you think? Because we go through this most of this issue. It's at high school. And, it's Mark and Adam Eve, and Mark and Adam Eve do the dumpster joke. And then they fly over to their teacher's house, and we find out that their teacher is the one who's been planning these bombs.
Yeah.
And the teacher's immediately like, oh, hi, Mark and Samantha. I know exactly it's you.
Yeah.
Now, with Samantha, I get it because she doesn't wear a mask. And he
says that, which is actually kind of funny.
I get that. But then he just like monologues and tells his entire plan.
Well, to me, this is our last issue. We better wrap this up.
So
it's for me too. It's an insufficient motive.
Well, it's the interesting. It's a weird thing because I'm reading through his giant monologue right here, and it's kind of hard to understand the reason why he goes to these lengths. He's like, it's not the death of my son I'm avenging. That would be far too cliche. No, it's the destruction of my life that has me seeking revenge. It's the domino effect of pain and sorrow that these monsters create. Children spend too much time at mall, attend parties, consume alcohol, play sports when they should be studying and doing homework. Now, it doesn't quite make sense to me why this leads to him being like, I'm gonna blow up, and then we go to the moment, and I think this is actually clever design by Corey Walker that we go right back to the panel from issue 1.
Yes, yeah.
And we realize that that's his teacher that he's carrying over his shoulder. Yeah. And then Omni-Man comes back, and they end with the Superman and Lois and all at table, and they tell their stories about what happened. And then she's like, and that's nice. Who's ready for dessert?
Yeah.
It's very family of Superman. And then that's the end of the first volume of Invincible.
Fun fact, in this volume, we get the first cameo of Alan the Alien in one of the montages.
He is? Where is he? I love Alan the Alien.
I think he's in the Teen Team montage.
What?
He's right in the bottom of one of the panels.
Where is he? I gotta find this guy.
And I noticed it because they also mention it in the back matter. And he will go on to be an incredibly important character.
He's one of the most important characters in the Teen Team montage?
Hang on.
I am literally scrolling through this. I want to find Alan the Alien.
It's there. I swear
I didn't think he showed up till later.
I know. I don't know if he was supposed to be a character that they were planning to drop later, or if he was just a cool design and then
I can't find him.
I'll find him.
I'm literally looking through issue. I've looked through 2, 3, and 4. I cannot find him.
And then Kirkman is like, "Hey, bring that design back."
Alan the Alien, is one of the best characters in this entire series.
Yeah. Who is not prominently featured in this volume at all. That's okay. I'll find it.
I don't see where the hell this guy is.
Why don't you read our first comment from our Patreon comments and questions?
Well, I really don't know how I'm going to do that since the questions are on your iPad.
Oh,
actually.
Good.
So it's all on you. Let's say ignore the cameo and let's do the Patreon questions. Although we need to, before we get the Patreon questions, Ashley, we need to give this a rating of 1 to 5 Bragos.
Oh yeah, I forgot that we do ratings.
Yeah.
Why don't you go first?
Well, I think that the first volume of Invincible, I think it's about 50% there. With that being said, though, at the same time, I do think that this is a really good introduction. I actually do think there's enough here to keep you reading. I think it falls apart when it gets to the students and the bomb vest thing.
Yeah.
I think the first 2 issues are really good. So I'm honestly going to give this a 4 out of 5 Bragos. I think the weakness of issue 3 and issue 4 aren't enough to downplay the joy of the first 2 issues. So that's what I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 Bragos. Ashley, what are you giving this?
Interesting. I think it's really difficult to divorce this from my love of the rest of the series, which is pretty high.
You got to divorce it, though.
I think it's a decent introductory volume. I think if you don't know anything about the rest of the series, I think it definitely stands. I think it's a good, clean introduction to who this character is and what he's all about. I do agree that the sort of danger plot falls apart, and that's a little unfortunate. But I'll give it a 4 out of 5 Bragos. I think that's respectable.
All right, cool. So now, of course, the recommended reading, of course, will be this book. But we're going to go into our Patreon questions because, guys, when we do this book club thing, you go to patreon.com/Jawiin, Jawiin. And at any level, when we announce the next book, we put a post up, and you can put your questions in the post, and we will answer your questions here on the podcast, but only for our amazing patrons over there that help us keep this podcast alive and going strong. So, Ashley,
yes,
you have some Patreon questions for us about Invincible.
I do.
Let's do this.
Cool. Let's do it. By the way, they're in the show notes. Our first question is from Brian J., who said, I had never considered reading this before, but I'm glad you added it to the book club because it was quite enjoyable. My favorite part is the family dynamic, especially with the mom. She's the best. It's great to see the whole family honest about the fact that they lived the superhero life. And seeing the mom at home, it made me think of the families of first responders and how they must feel when their loved ones are working. It made it all very real. Bonus, I love the Wild Stallions Easter egg on the ball cap in the 3rd issue. There are also
I didn't notice that.
There are also Science Dog
that comes into play
Easter
later.
eggs throughout, which isn't Science Dog some other Kirkman thing?
No, Science Dog is the superhero that Mark reads in the Invincible universe.
I thought he was a pre-existing thing.
No,
and it was like a meta
You
joke.
might be thinking about Wolfman, and then
I've read Wolfman.
and then also there's like Power Dinosaur or something like that.
Oh, that's who I'm thinking of.
No. Science Dog is Mark's favorite comic book.
Yes, and he has a poster in his room, and I think he has a shirt.
There is a gag later on where Mark comes to his comic book shop and he hasn't been there for a long time, and he gets a giant pile of Science Dog. And there's also there's later a scene where he goes and meets the creator of Science Dog, and I think they basically make Science Dog's creator Robert Kirkman.
Of course. So he's 6.5 feet tall.
He's just a big dude.
Well, that's Robert Kirkman's like 6.5 feet tall.
Yeah.
Okay, our next Patreon comment is from Nathan McKenzie, who says, only one chapter in and I'm really enjoying it. Question. Do you think the movie Sky High was made using this book as a baseline? I don't know what that is, so maybe.
Sky High is a movie that was created by Disney, and it is about a high school full of superheroes. Danielle Panabaker stars in it.
Oh.
And Kurt Russell, Kurt Russell is basically the Superman of the universe, and it's about the kid that is the son of the Superman of the universe. The best thing about Sky High is that Bruce Campbell is the gym coach.
That sounds awesome.
It's actually not a bad movie. It's pretty good. Now, the hard thing about this is that I don't remember when I just looked it up because I couldn't remember. Sky High comes out in 2005. I'm not certain when the first volume of Invincible comes out, so I'm also going to Google that as well because I don't have all these dates.
I know it's way earlier than I always think
in my head. So is the question that Sky High ripped off Invincible?
Well, it said did it perhaps use this as inspiration, I think is the question.
Okay, so Invincible comes first appearances in 2002. So there's a chance. I mean, sure. Maybe. I mean,
Charlie Brown is also in the second issue of this book.
Here's the thing. Sky High is not just about one hero. It's more about the school. So I'm going to call it as a no.
Okay.
I'm going to say no to that.
But there's a good chance that the people who created Sky High had read Invincible. That's not out of the realm of possibility.
Here's the thing. I'm certain they probably read it because they probably read it to do research. But I don't think they copied it in any way.
I don't think that I'll agree with that. I don't think there was any intentional copying or homage
Next question
going on. Our next question is from the awesome Ken Taylor, who says, the first time I heard about Invincible was due to the crossover with Spider-Man a few years ago. While I thought the story was fun and the characters were interesting, the art was cool, I didn't enjoy it for some reason. However, I'm glad I stuck with it because Invincible would eventually become one of my favorite comic series of all time. My question is, given where the story goes, would Invincible work more as an anime-like animated series?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because there is an animated series.
They are making an animated series. We're actually going to talk more about the animated series and what we think it's going to look like and all of that in our extra. And since you're a Patreon, you will hear it.
I'm going to say this. I do think it would always work. I've actually been saying for years, and it's funny that it's funny that Amazon Prime is doing this.
I found Alan, by the way.
Okay. Well, you mean Alan the Alien?
Yeah. Issue 2.
Oh, it's in the Voltramite montage,
sequence.
Not the teen.
I apologize.
Okay.
I knew it was one of the montages. And Omni-Man is punching him, and his orange head is going away.
Okay,
from the bottom.
so that's
I'll share it so that everyone can see.
Okay,
it.
so that is a thing because like when Alan the Alien shows up and Mark talks to him for the first time, Alan the Alien says that he like comes to Earth like every 8 years or something like that,
Yes,
and his dad is always like beat his ass. So
yeah.
All right. Anyways, back to the questions. I've always thought for a long time that Invincible should be an Adult Swim.
Yes, you've said that for
Cartoon
years.
Network, but
and then I adopted.
I
that
think
opinion.
Amazon Prime is a good choice.
Sure, I'm really looking forward to it. So I guess our answer, Ken, is soft yes. Listen to Geek History Lesson Extra for more. Our final question comes from Chandler Bush, who says, first off, wow. Second off, I just ordered the first compendium. I like the way you operate, my friend. This is such an amazing first volume that sets up so many things that this series could do, and I'm really excited to read them. Issue 1 really gave me Sky High vibes, and I'm all about it. That's so funny. I've never seen it.
I get it. It's not terrible. It hasn't aged that well, but it's a good movie. It's a good movie.
He also goes on to say, I think I have to agree with Kurt Busiek and say Mark's mom, Debbie, is my favorite character. Just how she accepts what's going on and doesn't question it.
She gets better, my friend. She gets so much better.
So much better.
Yep.
The CW equivalent of Just Another Tuesday. She gets to look after a baby at one point. I'm not going to say anything else about who that baby is. It's amazing. My question being, how do you think it can add or subtract with introducing a team in the first arc of your new character?
I don't know what that means.
Finish reading what he has to say.
Oh, sorry.
I really enjoyed the interactions with Adam, Eve, and Robot, and I'm sure throughout the 144 issues, can't believe they never hit 150, their arcs are satisfying, but honestly, I would have been down for more Mark and his dad teaching him to control his powers. So I think what Chandler is trying to say, and perhaps his fingers got away from him as he was typing, which happens to me, and my editors call me on a lot, is... do we think it was a good idea to introduce Mark and then the teen team so close together to introduce all these new characters?
Is the teen
at
team
once?
Introduced too early?
Yes.
Because they show up in issue 2.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Invincible moves fast.
It surely does.
It trucks. And now I guess the idea is like, I mean, would we like Invincible as much? Let's throw this out there. Would we like Invincible as much if the entire first 6 issues were Mark figuring out his powers, and he doesn't get his costume until issue 6? Because think about it, if Invincible was published by DC or Marvel, that's exactly how it would go.
Is that the Miles pacing?
And we wouldn't, sorta, but we wouldn't have got. That's the Ultimate Peter Parker pacing. But we wouldn't have gotten around the exact same time. Ultimate Spider-Man started publishing in 2000. This is 2002, so they are very influenced by each other.
And you know Kirkman is reading it.
You know Kirkman
because he's a dork like the rest of us.
Here's the thing. You may not know this. Kirkman writes Ultimate X-Men.
I knew that.
In like 2008
and
because of Invincible.
He did another Marvel thing before that where he introduced the Freedom Ring character.
Yeah, it's like Killer or Monger or something like that. Anyways, so yeah, Kirkman is definitely influenced by Ultimate Spider-Man. So you know what?
I think it's intentionally quick in the beginning.
Agree.
Because we know the trappings, we know what an origin, and honestly, he's driving towards the reveal at the end of Volume 2, at the end of Issue 8. Do I think it's perhaps handled a little sloppily now that we're like 15 years past it and we can reflect on it? Maybe. But I love Adam Eve. And I like that she's introduced that early. I think she becomes a good ally and also a good foil for Mark this early on because it divorces him from his dad, and that's only a theme that's going to be dived into even more as the series goes on.
I agree. I think that I honestly think that part of the reason why we like Invincible so much and part of the reason why we think this issue is, he leans on, this stuff already.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen a superhero betrayed. You've seen this. You've seen this.
You know who Superman is.
I am not wasting any time on that. I am getting to the big moments.
I mean, we get the Viltrumites origin over 4 pages.
Yep.
It could have been an entire issue. It could have been a mini-series.
I mean, because, again, think about it. Like, again, we talk about this big twist that's coming in the second arc.
It's just so integral to the series.
And it happens in like issue 8.
Yeah.
And again, I think if this was a Marvel or DC book, that twist wouldn't have happened until issue 25.
That's what I was thinking.
So, you know what? I think the pace is the reason why we love it.
And Invincible is not a perfect series, and it suffers from pacing issues.
But it's a lot of fun.
Along the way. It absolutely is. I always describe it the way it was described to me as comic book candy.
It is comic book candy. And you know
down
what?
To the color palette.
It's just fun.
Yeah. Even at its most brutal, it's fun.
It's just fun. Like, I really enjoy Invincible. And I think overall it's a great series. And again, it's not it's not the best series in the world, but it's just fun. It always.
We bought the action figures. I have an Adam Eve enamel pin.
Yep.
We're going to watch both of the shows.
Oh yeah,
we picked this volume for a reason.
I'm excited for the shows.
So I'm actually. Well, we'll talk about it on the action.
Yeah, we'll get there. Is that it?
Well, we have our honor roll is the next section.
Okay, so that is it for the Patreon questions. Are you sure? I think we need to announce what the next book is. Actually.
Oh sure. I don't know what order these things go in. The next.
So this is it for Invincible Book Club, everybody. We're so glad that you joined us for this. But now you need to know what the next book is because you need to get reading.
That's right. And please feel free to share your breakout ratings with us at GHL Podcast. Our next book, the book club, comes out July 2nd. So mark your calendars and leave your comments on our Patreon post the Friday before that. The next book is Midnighter, the Wildstorm series or the Wildstorm collection. Mm-hmm. That's what it's called. That's the subtitle. That's the OG Midnighter standalone series.
So go to that
by
post.
Garth Ennis. I'm sorry.
Garth Ennis. So go to that post on geekhistoryLesson.com/book club.
Yep.
And we have a link that'll take you directly to the book so you can buy it. You can read it digitally. You can read it physically.
However you
and that way you can read it before we do our next episode of the book club. I'm enjoying these book clubs. It's good.
And if you want to be like our amazing commenters, all you have to do is donate even $1 to the Patreon. And we will read so far we've been reading all of the comments.
So what? That's fine.
No, it's great. We'll read your comment on the next book club. So please consider that if that's a book that you love or a book that you find intriguing. I have never read any of the OG Midnighter.
If this is the Midnighter, I think it is. I think this is where Midnighter travels through time to kill Hitler.
It is, because this is the one that I said, Jason, I want to do a Midnighter series. And you said, it has to be this one.
Oh, okay, cool.
Which is kind of how we pick some of these ones. Jason's read more Midnighter than us.
I love Wildstorm because I love Wildcats. Wildcats, Wildcats, Wildcats.
That song has come up a lot on this podcast.
They're Wildcat people.
All right. No, I thought they were breakdance people.
They're breakdance people.
I think you once played the actual.
I've played it several times. Let's move into the honor roll. What's the honor roll, Ashley?
Well, Jason, the honor roll is where if you are amazing and you go to Apple Podcasts and you give us 5 stars, we'll read whatever you write. Because that helps other people find us in the algorithm. That helps bump us up. That helps us spread the GHL love to more amazing Mind University students all over the world.
So get over there and write some stuff on Apple Podcasts, because iTunes is going away, by the way.
Yeah.
And we want to read your stuff on the podcast. So, Ashley, who are we reading? Who gave us 5 stars?
So today we are welcoming to the Teacher's Lounge 2 people. One is the Jessica Drew fan club, who says, Jessica Drew is awesome, ... now. Where do I start? This podcast is awesome. I can honestly zone out for hours listening to these two talk about characters and things that I love. Plus, I learn a dozen new things every episode. It's a funny and not pretentious like some comic geeks can be. Oh, thank you. P.S. Jessica Drew is awesome now since your episode about her.
Okay.
That is so sweet because I remember being so startled by so many things. Thank you so much, Jessica Drew Fan Club. What does Jessica Drew Fan Club get now that they've left a review, Jason?
They don't get anything because we got to induct somebody else.
I thought they both got things.
No, not yet. I didn't say they get anything. They get gold stars.
All right, the next 5-star review comes from Old School Buster, who says, fuels my geeky brain. I consider myself a very geeky person, and if you are very geeky too, this podcast is for you. This podcast will refresh your knowledge, teach you new facts and characters, and introduce you to new fandoms. I've been a fan for I don't even know how long, and even the past episodes still hold up. Well, that's very kind of you. From the theme songs to the voices to Jason and Ashley's awesome personalities, this podcast has something for all types of geeked. I discovered Jason prior to GHL through DC All Access.
Oh, thanks, man.
But found GHL while finding a geeky podcast for me. I've tried many great geeky podcasts, but sadly their format was not for me. GHL has a very unique format that keeps it timeless and relevant. If you want to get your weekly dosage of geek knowledge, go subscribe to GHL. P.S. Perfect for homework, commutes, and road trips. Also, support them on Patreon if you can. Hashtag not sponsored. Old School Buster. Thank you so much for shouting out the Patreon.
Old School Buster?
Yeah, I think it's like a Ghostbuster. That would be
great.
my
Or
guess.
it could be an Arrested Development joke.
Perhaps. Also, excellent use of the hashtag, my friend.
So Old School Buster, and who's our other person?
Jessica Drew Fan Club.
Jessica Drew Fan Club. Welcome to the Teacher's Lounge. Thank you so much for those 5-star ratings. Thank you so much for going a step above and beyond. Welcome inside the Teacher's Lounge. We have all kinds of pamphlets from Croatia sitting on the table.
If you want to go see King's Landing, we got you covered.
Yes, they were left there by Mrs. Kovacic.
What does Mrs. Kovacic teach?
She's the bus driver.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know her name.
She teaches actually taxidermy on the weekend.
Wow, that's a very unique set of skills.
Yeah, that's right.
Intern Bregowitz losing his mind
the school really hasn't allowed that as an official class. So
it's an elective.
If you go to Mrs. Kovacic's taxidermy class, it's not technically safe.
Well, it's a craft.
But feel free to go there.
But what we like
Honor roll
about
students.
Mrs. Kovacic is that they're only animals that are already tragically passed on. She doesn't kill any animals.
No,
for
I'm
her
not saying she
taxidermy class.
murders. What do you think? You think she's an animal murderer? Where are we going with this? You know what? I think it's time to move on.
I'm trying to cover our bases in case someone got mad that we talked about
She's
taxidermy.
not an animal murderer.
She's a
Okay.
nice bus driver.
Thank you so much for that review. If you want to leave a 5-star review and get shouted out on the podcast and possibly join Mrs. Kovacic's taxidermy class.
Also, please be patient. These are from July of 2018. We have a lot of them because you're all amazing. We will get to them.
We will get to them. We will do them to eternity. Even if this podcast ends,
We'll just read Apple
The podcast will be nothing
reviews.
but reading iTunes reviews. Well, it's going to happen. I guess Apple Podcast reviews is what we should call it now because iTunes is going away. So there you go. Go over and do that. Everybody over there, don't forget you can talk to us and support us at patreon.com/Jawiin, where we do our extra podcast every single week, which is called Geekish Lesson Extra. This week, what are we talking about, Ashley?
Which Invincible adaptation will be better?
Cool. Yeah, we're going to talk about the live action and the animated adaptation because there's both of them.
Yep.
And I'm mispronouncing words because I'm super tired, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at Jawiin, Jawiin. Follow Ashley on Twitter at Ashley V. Robinson. Follow the podcast at GHL Podcast. And you can follow us on social media. Where, Ashley? I'm trying to see this as fast as I can.
GeekHistoryLesson.com, Facebook.com/GeekHistoryLesson, or on Twitter at GHL Podcast. There's a bunch of ways to contact us in all of those places. If you want to request an episode, use one of the official channels. Please don't tag our personal accounts. We love you.
It's fine.
We love interacting with you. But if you have to make sure that you also tag the Geek History Lesson ones because those are the ones that we pull from. It'll get lost in our personal feeds.
We're just saying
that's all.
We're just saying that because if you tag our personal accounts, we'll never. We have a giant list.
Yes,
has like 400 things on it,
and I go through it once a month.
Yeah,
and I pull them all from the official Geek History Lesson channel. So just please tag the channel.
Yeah, you have to tag the channel, or else we'll never add it to the list.
Yeah,
that's just the. That's
all. It's
the way it works.
It's the easiest way to do it.
I just want to make sure you're not getting mad at our Mind University students.
That's right.
Okay.
No. I love our Mind University students.
Yeah, we like them a lot. And everybody, have a book. June 18th, Super Soldiers.
Pick it up.
Please pre-order it.
Truly, it's amazing. As the first person who read it, it's amazing.
Well, it's like a written version. I actually so somebody else that a guest of our podcast, Victoria Male, of the Your Biggest Fangirl podcast.
Who was also on our second book club.
Yep, she read an early copy of the book, and she said that it was basically like reading Geek History Lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like Geek History Lesson, please pre-order my book, Super Soldiers, on Amazon. Hashtag stick around the end of the podcast discussion where we talk about stuff so that in case, you didn't want to stick through our plugs. That's how we get more content. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, Ashley. I'm so tired.
Jason.
I'm beyond tired. Okay, you have it? Oh my God.
I have 2 questions for you.
Oh, thank God.
Who is your favorite superhero in the Invincible universe?
Invincible.
Who is your favorite not Mark Grayson character in the Invincible universe?
Come on. A favorite not Mark Grayson?
Well, in case you wanted to say, we have a lot of Mark's mom stands here today.
I can't remember his name. He's a character that gets introduced a long, long time ago, way down the road. But he looks like a giant tiger.
Oh, yeah.
Can't remember his name. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
It's fair. I don't know.
I love...
I'm barely conscious.
I'm not going to say the character's name because it could potentially be construed as a spoiler, but I love the purple baby.
Space Hitler?
I love the purple baby.
Is it Space Hitler?
No, that might be a spoiler for the end of volume 2.
Space Hitler?
cover your ears if you haven't.
No, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it because we don't want that. We want them to enjoy that twist full on. I like Alan the Alien too. He's a good character.
I like Robot a lot.
Robots are really. There actually is a great character that's, I don't know when she shows up. Monster Girl is really great too.
Oh, I forgot about
Monster Girl is really good.
I want to say she shows up around 25 or 30 maybe.
And then there's another character that shows up. I think he's Samson.
Uh-huh.
And he's the immortal. And
yeah.
and he's in a lot of the book, and he's really good too.
I think Invincible has, especially for a non-Big 2 superhero book, has a lot of really amazing supporting characters.
Cool. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for listening to Geek History Lesson. I am Jason. This is Very Late Inman.
I'm Ash Victoria Robinson.
Bye-bye.